How's it going, guys? This is Gabe's Reef, and this is the first video. I haven't had this reef up long at all. I'd say it's been almost approaching the 4th week. I think it'll be the 4th week this coming Thursday. Today is Tuesday, so I'm a couple days from being 4 weeks old. I was gonna do the initial setup video and all that, but I just was real busy, so I figure I might as well start it now. This is a new channel about reefs. I am not a professional, or I'm gonna claim to be. I had tanks growing up. I had a tank a few years back, but I've never had saltwater, and I've always been intrigued, and I always thought it was amazing. I thought it looked the best out of all of the kind of pets you can have. I think saltwater is the best in my opinion. You know, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. And honestly, I ran a schedule light a little early to kind of get the fish used to running about 8 hours of light. And honestly, it grew a little bit of algae. Most of that I can blow off with a turkey baster. Whatever's left, the new snails I got should clean it up. So this tank is almost done cycling. I'd say about another week or so, about 5-6 weeks, I should be done cycling. I did add bacteria enzymes that are actually supposed to help the cycle, along, add more natural bacteria, good bacteria, and then go from there. So let's start from the very beginning. I went to a local pet store. I wanted to support them. It was just a little bit more than if you were to buy it at a offline. It wasn't much more, but hey, I thought to support the local pet stores. Please do that. It's really neat where you can go and see their cool fish. You can pick stuff out. You kind of see it in person. You can see the condition of the aquariums and how clean and how nice the fish are. So I think it's worth it to support your local fish store, if it's a good one, of course. These BioCubes are pretty popular. It started a while back with smaller ones, and then prior to this BioCube, the biggest one was a 29-gallon. This is the newest Coral Life BioCube. It is the 32-gallon LED. So it's newer in the sense that it has a new hood. It is a little bit bigger. It has a timer on top for full intensity, moonlight, and sunset and sundown. So it's pretty cool. Has a lot of options. I wish it was honestly probably like an Apex or something more programmable. An app sense might be better, but for what this is, it is really nice. It is an all-in-one style system. I'm gonna kind of show you from each side. Hopefully the flash will kick on when it gets a little dark, and I don't know why it's not doing that. Usually the flash would kick on when it gets dark, and it don't seem like it's doing it. I apologize. But basically, here's the top of it. There's the time. It is programmable, so you can go from 12-hour to 24. You set the time, then you set when you want the intensity to be on, when you want it to turn off, when you want the moonlight to come on, when you want it to turn off. Oh no, that's sunset and sundown, and then moonlight, and then the end of moonlight. So it's really neat, simple LED BioCube, Coral Life. It has a 3-chamber system. I'll quickly lift up the hood. I don't want to leave it up too long. So in the very first chamber, which I recommend a protein skimmer, they actually make one that's about $35 to $39 that would go there. I am going to purchase that since I'm getting coral and other things, and the water parameters have to be pretty darn good for corals. And they're actually pretty good right now. if you set up the filtration the way I did, it works well, but I'd still honestly recommend a protein skimmer unless you plan on changing a lot of water. Protein skimmer give you a little bit more time, but I'd still, once it cycles, I'd still change the water once a week, at least 4 to 5 gallons. So there is my heater. It is a 100-watt heater, which fits in here, and it controls the temperature perfectly. You can put that in the first chamber, including your protein skimmer. They both should fit in there. Then you have your first filter, which was the only filter it came with. And then I'll get into the other filters. Now this does slide up. There's a little bracket on top. You pull the filter off, you pull the bracket, and then the whole entire, like a little tray slides out. Chamber number 2 just has your sump pump, your little pump. And we did get some evaporation. I usually have this pretty high up. I'll show you guys, if you have it really low, and you don't have that much, if you don't add any more filter stuff in there that I'm gonna show you here in a minute, it's loud, the water splashing, so it can get annoying. So there's the sub pump. The pump is a 260 gallons per hour pump. It has a little meter on the side, so it's a minimal. And then honestly, I would go to the very top of this, maybe even to here. So there's the bottom. You don't want it definitely any lower than here because it starts making noise. But usually I keep it somewhere about right there. I did get some water evaporation. Make sure you only add fresh water, not salt water, because when you evaporate, the salt does not evaporate. The stand itself is pretty neat. Hopefully I can get you guys a shot back here. All the wires, I'm gonna zip tie these together, make it a little bit more cleaner. Zip tie all these together, neater, tighter, and it has a hole right there. So everything can go through these holes, and you can have it pretty nicely set. Now, this algae that's growing, it isn't green hair. There's a little bit of green hair right there. This algae is really easy to clean. Most of it you can blow off with a turkey baster, which is one of the recommended items I would say you need. So besides that, you definitely want a power head. What I did is the top power head, the pump itself, I angled it up so it ripples the water. Now why you want it to ripple the water is it helps with the flow and helps get rid of some of those gases and circulates the oxygen up here. It does have vents on both sides. And then on top it actually has a fan. I don't know if you can hear it, but there is a fan in here. Even when the lights are off, the fan's on. What this is designed for is to draw the gases out and suck in fresh air from the sides. So there's your exhaust, there's your intakes on both sides. It's pretty tight seal there. I like the way it sits in there. No fish can jump out with this system, which I love. A lot of those open, rimless tanks, you have to watch your fish, especially some breeds just love to jump and swim around fast. Something scares them, they'll just jump right out of the water. And then we're getting to the stand. It's pretty decent wood. It was pretty easy to assemble, did not take me long at all. Has little magnets, close it. So they work really nice, they look good. It has this little glass, plastic or glass panels right here. Sorry it's a little dark, I thought the flash would come on by now. Let's see. For some reason, it's not letting me turn the flash on. Don't know why. So basically what I have in here is I have a power strip that has independent switches. So instead of always unplugging and moving around wires, I try to clean up the wires the best I could, and everything's off a switch. My first switch, I just remember the first switch. The first switch is light, the second is temperature, the third is the 260 gallon sub pump, the fourth is the 528 gallon power head wave maker. Now this is not a pulsating one, it just runs consistently, just creates a current. I wouldn't consider it a wave maker, I'd say more like a current creator. A wave maker, it pulsates, it kind of turns on, off, and it creates the waves. So that's why it's called a wave maker. I could go real quickly what I have. As far as food goes, I just have API marine flakes. Now the reason why I have this actually It was part of a package deal. This is for cleaner water, optimal protein growth, flakes. Let's say it says fish produces less ammonia, so it's supposed to be cleaner. Supposed to be cleaner product. It's made in USA. It's made by API Marine Flakes. Clownfish and some other fish, tangs and other fish like that will like this. Honestly, it came with my master saltwater kit, so it was like a free deal. So let's go through the food first. Then I also have these. They're supposed to, let's see, they're supposed to sink, but they're so small. It takes a while for them to absorb water and sink. So they'll float for a while before they finally sink. Come on, focus there. Spectrum, New Life Spectrum. This is good stuff right here. Clownfish, all kinds of fish, tangs, all kinds of fish love this. What else also eats it? I think also damsels will eat this as well. Set that to the side, and then your basic algae wafers. You have you got your damsels, algae eaters, different kinds of algae eaters. Your crabs, your clownfish will eat this. A bunch of different fish actually eat those. Lobsters, shrimps, hermits, slugs. So there's quite a variety that eat those. So far I have these as my dry foods. And then for, I was actually getting ready to feed them. For frozen foods, I like to do brine shrimp and Midas shrimp. Here, I'll show you real quick what the packaging looks like. Let's step into the kitchen for a second. I just kind of want to show you everything and my setup, and I'm gonna go through other things and reviews and tips and just everything I could come up with. So here's your Midas shrimp. This is more of a treat. The value is okay on it. These aren't, you can, on the back actually has a breakdown. And then I also have brine shrimp, which is really pretty decent for them. Now, if you actually look at the stats, these aren't that great because they're frozen, they're not fresh. It'll tell you on the back exactly everything about it. This thing will focus. So it'll tell you like the percents of everything. You can also scan a QR code. So these work pretty well. Pretty much everyone eats them. The anemone I have, the bubble tip anemone I have, absolutely loves it. Both of them, mainly the brine shrimp I'd probably say, but they'll eat both. All the fish will pretty much eat it. So I'll talk about the fish here in a second. So I have those as frozen. I just put in here, kind of let it melt. Some animals like it a little cold, some like it where they're melted. It just depends, really. I know some anemones might eat it frozen. I just melt mine. Now, as far as products, this is probably one of the most important things besides your saltwater test kit, your master saltwater test kit, which I'd recommend. This is a refractometer. So what this basically does is tell you the salinity, I always say that word wrong, of your salt water. So this tells you, you know, what it is. If you have too much salt in, if you have too less, depending on what you have in there, it can be from 1.020 to 1.032. So anywhere in that range, it just depends. Like some fish like it mid-range, like 0.024, 25, 26. It depends where you buy them at, what water they're in. Make sure it's similar to yours and let them adjust or do a drip. There's just a lot to it when it comes to that. We'll get into that later. But I've been doing some research, and I think this is the best way to test your salinity. I know they have one of these right here, which I bought the first time, Instant Ocean Hydrometer. I believe, honestly, in my opinion, I think this is far more accurate than this is. It gives you, I'll do a test actually where I take the same water and test it both ways. I actually dip in here with one of these, which it has a couple of these in here, and I'll actually suck up the water out of that, and I'll test it, and I'll see which is more accurate, or a baseline, or, you know, if they're close or if they're similar. This can get bubbles on it. You have to have it on a nice flat surface. You pull out of the tank, has a little hole right here. It only fills up to that point. You have to set on a nice level surface, flick it a couple times, make sure there's no bubbles there. Let it bob to the right spot, and then that doesn't come really to a small point, so it can be a little bit off. So honestly, I'd rather recommend the refractometer instead of the hydrometer. In my opinion, I think these are much better. Just make sure you clean them only with distilled water. Rinse them out every time. Salt can build up in them. And then honestly, one of the most important thing when it comes to testing is your water test kits. I recommend at least a master kit. It tests basically for ammonia, high range pH, nitrite and nitrate. So it's two different forms of it. It tests for all this. It has 4 different tubes, so you can test all 4 at the same time. As long as you rinse and clean these out, doesn't matter which ones you use, as long as it's cleaned out every time. It says it's about 550 tests, so that's really nice. You can buy these bottles individually, so if you run out of one before the other, or you need to re-up or whatever it may be, I think you can buy the bottles individually. There's other things I'd recommend testing for if you plan on having corals. Calcium, obviously, your what else? Your alkalinity or alkaline. I'm terrible with words. Sorry, I pronounce things bad. Alkalinity, and then stuff like that. So you want to watch all the other things. And then as far as my other equipment or things I like to use, turkey baster is probably one of the most used items. I should have got a little bit smaller one, honestly. This is what I feed with. You just simply let the shrimp melt, suck it up, and then you can feed your anemone. You can feed fish. You can feed whatever you need to with this. I like to try to feed, I don't like to just dump a bunch of food in there. I like to kind of directly feed, so that way it's not a bunch of food just thrown around in the tank and wasted and, just a big mess. So you have a turkey baster. I have a couple air lines. If I need to drip acclimate something, I usually put it in this container right here. And then I do a square knot in this, and then it just drips in there. It gets used to the chemistry of my water. Obviously, a net. This is one of the nicest gravel vacuums I've seen. It has a pump, so you don't suck on it. Some of your corals can have toxins. Be careful with that. There's a little clip right here that goes on the bucket so it won't fall out. And then it has the big tube, and then this can come off, and there's a little white screen thing so you don't suck up like your hermits and your snails and stuff like that. This is a really nice gravel vacuum. It's only like 10 bucks off Amazon or maybe less. I highly recommend that. Your air lines, and then I like to keep as many spares as I can, especially a power head. These were only $9.99, and these are 528-gallon power heads. This is what's in there right now. It works perfectly. This does not have a foam. Some of them have the foam guards or foam protectors on there. I guess that keeps enemies and other things with tentacles so they won't go in there. But honestly, mine so far has been kind of hiding in a rock. I'll show you guys here in a second. I moved him and he wasn't too happy about that. So let's put that power head back. And then the heater, this is also a 100-watt heater. Now what I did is I got one with a plastic case on it because this is going to be placed in the bucket when I mix up water, and then I'm going to use that power head to help mix the water. So whenever I do a water change, this is going to heat the water, and then that's going to mix it for me so it's dissolved and mixed properly so I get an accurate reading. Plus it also helps to have a spare. These are ceramic bio... This is ceramic bio little cylinders, and these basically, you buy a mesh bag, you put these in here, and you create a filter. The bag will fit in one of the shelves. If I pull out that shelf back there in the middle chamber, I put a bag of these ceramic cylinders to help build bacteria in them, so I have a nice bacteria count. here is some sea salt left over when I set up the tank. It's a 32-gallon tank. I bought a big bag of sea salt. I had a few cups, I think like 14 cups or something left over, or 8 cups left over or something like that. So I have some to, for a water change. I am going to have to buy more. And then this is where I'd put them in to drip, acclimate them. Or if I need to check them out or quarantine them, or maybe treat them if I definitely dip your coral for sure. I would definitely recommend dipping your coral. I'll do videos on that later on. What else? And then I guess we could get into the fish. I don't want to stretch this video out so long. I apologize. So I bought the tank and the shelf and only the salt and then the sand. This is a medium grain sand. It was live sand, so it had bacteria in there. I put the sand in it, spread it across the bottom, mixed up my salt water, put it in. Try to use distilled water. I know it's a lot of distilled water. The very first time I used tap water. I just let it cycle for a week and all the chlorine and everything kind of evaporated and, got out of there. They say it's better to use distilled, but that's a lot of distilled water. 32 gallons, maybe catch it. Maybe you can buy it in bulk, or you could buy pre-mixed salt water if you like, but it does get pretty expensive. So just mind that. And then I'll let that run with the water and the salt in there for a while. Just kept letting it run. And then I went and bought, some dry rock first. See those really clean pieces? That is dry rock right there. I bought 3 pieces of dry rock. I kind of made a weird little formation in the middle. I realized I needed more, and then I looked for live rock. I don't know how much live rock I say it was. It was at a local aquarium. It was basically kept in a tank, and it was used for filtration for this whole entire system. So it was getting the natural bacteria to it. It wasn't getting light, so it didn't have a bunch of algae on it, thank goodness. But it was kind of not brownish color. I guess it was kind of brownish color. I guess it did have live organisms and live everything on it, bacteria and everything. And he didn't have no light on it. He used it for filtration, and it built up that good bacteria. Be careful buying live rock, obviously. Go to the aquarium place and see what their live rock looks like, how healthy it is. You take a chance. You can dip live rock, you could boil it, but that just pretty much takes away all the bacteria and all the good stuff out of it. I got it. So far, everything looks great, besides the algae from the light, obviously. And then my first 2 fish are these Ocellaris clownfish. I got 2 of them. The biggest one, I think, is going to become the female. They're both males. And then I guess the dominant one becomes a female eventually. And then after that, I waited a week or so, and then I purchased a little bit of a cleanup crew. I got that bandit shrimp right there. And then I also got a small green crab. I don't know where he's at right now. He could be hiding anywhere pretty much. A really small green crab. I forget what he's called. There he is. See him right there? It's kind of dark. But he's right there. Right in here, it's kind of dark. I apologize. If I get some light in there. No, it just ain't no light to see it. Small little green crab about the size of a quarter, or maybe a little bit bigger. And then I got 4 hermit crabs. And then I also bought 3 Mexican turbo snails, which you can see how dirty the rest of the rock is and how clean that area is. That's actually from the turbo snails. They go to town. Like they did all this right in. They did all this right in here, all that clean, that part. So they're going to town. Hopefully they'll clean these rocks up for me. A lot of it I'll be able to probably blow off and clean off myself, which I'm going to do here with the first water change, obviously. And then 4 hermit crabs. Make sure you throw at least 1 to 2 extra shells per hermit crab, because they will fight and kill each other for these shells. I mean, they really, they'll really fight for them, when they outgrow their shells. So be careful. Make sure you throw in extra shells. And then after the cleanup crew, My third and fourth fish was, I got a yellow-tailed damsel. So where he's at, he has kind of some purple in him. He likes to hide amongst the rocks. I remember one day I could not even find him. He was like all the way underneath this little arch, like all the way up in there. There he is, see him? Little yellow-tailed damsel. He is a beautiful fish. He's kind of bluish purple, has some purple in him. And then one of my favorite fish is the Mandarin, Mediterranean, either Mandarin or Mediterranean, I think it's Mediterranean, dragonet. I think that's a boy. He's a beautiful fish. That is a expert level fish, to be honest with you. It takes a lot of care and a lot to feed him, so just be careful if you buy one. I wouldn't buy one to start out with, honestly. And I'll get into, you know, their diets and how they've been doing so far. I'm going to do multiple videos, but I'm going to just do a quick rundown and everything. And then I have a bubble tip anemone. Now, this one, for some reason, see if I could get zoomed in to where you guys can see him. Where is that gap? There he is. He's right there in a dark spot. You kind of, there you go, see the outer edge that's like green bubble tips. He was on top of here, like right in here. So when I first got him, for some reason, I put him down here, about like right there. He did okay. He closed up once, I think. I spelled all the water out of him, and then I didn't like where he was at. I felt like he wasn't getting enough flows / lighting. I just didn't like where he was at. I was hoping more towards the top where the clownfish mostly hang out at. So I wanted them to host it and kind of be around it. So I put it up here. He moved from right there all the way around to here. So I guess he wasn't happy with me moving him. Hopefully he's okay. The very first day I had him, he was open. All his bubbles were full of water. I gave him some shrimp. He seemed to have eaten it. You don't want him pooping a lot. That means you're overfeeding him. You don't want to put big chunks in there. You want to turn off your pumps when you feed. That's another recommendation when you feed. Turn off your pumps. Let them all get the food. Don't let it all get sucked up in your filtration system. Then you have a bunch of food in your filtration system. So there's a lot of things I'm going to go over with. This is just a main overview of my tank. I also have this little grabber. You don't always want to put your arm, you know, elbow deep in there to grab something or move something. Be careful with these. Obviously, don't grab fish or something. You probably grab something hard like a crab or maybe like the shell or a hermit or something. Just be careful, obviously. This is if I drop something or I need to grab something. And then obviously you want a good magnet algae cleaner. Both sides. It sticks to one side and you just clean from the other. I got a pretty small one because this is only a 32-gallon BioCube, so I didn't need a big one. I just kind of leave it there. It's probably going to get dirty there. I might want to move it eventually. And then that's pretty much it for gear. There's the food. It's almost completely melted. See it? It's almost completely melted. I like to let it melt. That way it's easy to feed. I turn off the pumps. That way they can eat. And what he's doing, just to give you a quick overview why he's an expert level fish, is he is hunting right now. I actually put 2 bottles of Tigger pods. Now I think Tigger pods are the best ones as far as populating, nutrition, everything in the tank will eat it. Literally everything. All the fish will eat it. Excuse me. The hermits will eat them. The shrimp will eat them. The crabs will eat them. The anemone, bubble tip anemone will eat them. Everything I'm going to put in there. Some other corals and other things will eat them. Or no, that's anemones. I'm sorry. Pretty much everything in there will eat them. So I put them in there. I dumped 1 bottle in. I have to feed them phosphates, I think it is. So you got to be careful how much you put in there because it's obviously not good for your corals. A lot of people go with refugium, which I'm probably going to consider. The next thing I'm actually purchasing is a protein skimmer. They're pretty affordable. They're about $35 to $39 for the size one that fits in the BioCube, the Coral Life BioCube, which will fit in that first chamber right there with the heater. The second one, you can see the lines. It's from here to here is a second chamber with a sliding tray that has all the filtration. So I basically have the top filter I showed you guys. Then I have the bio ceramic cylinders in there. Then I have the black foam filtration, one big strip of that. Then I have another block of filtration, foam filtration. And then in this corner where the second and third chamber connect, there's another block of black foam filter. I guess to keep anything from going in there, whatever part of the filters you might have in there. If something breaks up or something falls down, it won't get sucked into this last chamber, which is just mainly water. There's your levels right there on that side. And that's really pretty much it. For some reason, I couldn't get my flash to work. I wanted to show you the back of it, the way the filtration looks. Make sure you add something in there, at least some black foam filters or something, because the water will go down and splash at the bottom and just make a really loud water splashing and just a bunch of water noise. You won't like that. See, he's hunting for the tiger pods. So refugium, if you get him, definitely, I'm going to probably start a refugium soon. I've already dumped 2 bottles. Each bottle is $26. It is expensive. You have to feed them 1 cat full 2 to 3 times a week. You know, kind of make sure you don't, you know, get it in your corals or anything. Refugium, like I said, would be perfect. Put it in the tank. And then hopefully they eat that, they reproduce for you, and the numbers stay up enough to feed this guy. I mean, some of them from the pet store are actually trained to eat frozen shrimp and other things. So I wish this one was, but he was not. So, you know, it sucks that wasn't the case, but ask your pet store. They'll tell you if he was, you know, eating that. If not, that's why he is an expert level fish, honestly. He's still hunting right now. When he catches something, he kind of pecks. I haven't seen him peck too much. Hopefully he can catch some fish, catch some tiger pods. Yeah, that's unfortunate. You have to keep an eye on that. Each bottle, I think, holds from 250 to 2,500. So it's vague. The bottles say 50% more on them now. And just basically make sure you feed them those phosphates. Don't forget that to keep the population up. Don't add too much either. So always check your water levels every day, and then once it's established, change your water once a week with a gravel vacuum, brush cleaning, stuff like that. So just make your tank look good, take your time, and enjoy the hobby. So this was just a quick overview of my tank, and I'll be dropping more videos and updates as we go along. So I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me. This is Gabe's Reef, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.